there, good evening, very late evening, and welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast for a very impromptu show. We weren't going to talk about it immediately after the game, particularly with the added on time and the getting kicking on late and the 8 p.m. kickoff. But Paddy, after a performance like that from let's be honest here, a shadow side, it would be remiss of us not to come on and talk about it right after it happened, to talk about the performances for guys who came out of the cold and raised their game, mate. 5-1, you were taking that all day long. You happy, mate?
Yeah, listen, 100%. When you sent the team sheet into the chat, I mean, you're kind of looking in there, obviously, since Salo, straight away you're thinking, all right, okay.
Yep.
Just giving him a wee chance, and then Joe called it McCowan and Bernardo in the middle of the park. Me and you laughed at him last night when he said that.
He doesn't get a lot right, does he? But he got that
it's
right.
Crazy.
He got that right.
I will give him that one.
He's going to be dining off that
starting as well. Fair play, do you know what I mean? Like,
yep. Well, no, as we say, we just want to pop up and talk about it. As we say, all change. We sat here last night, didn't we? As we said, the bold Joe, he made the prediction, it's going to be this, that. We're like, there we go, right? We're asking the question, was it going to be a dry run for the cup final? Were we going to see a side that we thought was giving us a sort of steer for where we're going to go for that match? Or was it time to experiment? Well, both teams experimented. I believe that Aberdeen made 6 changes and we made a raft of the changes. We started off, as he says, Sinasalo, Ralston, Narotki out of the blue again. Trusty and Schlupp out of cold storage again. Probably one of his very last run-outs, I would imagine, for Celtic. Forrest, Cal McGregor, Bernardo, Yang, McCown and Kenny up front. Lovely stuff. All change. Plenty to go on. Plenty of action to talk about. Plenty of good performance to talk about. And we'll get right in about it. But before we do, just as we always do, welcome back to the channel. As we say, if you want to help support the channel, cost you absolutely nothing to do that. Hit the subscribe button, get notified every time we go live. We really do appreciate everybody that's followed us so far. If you want to help, you can donate in the member section. Just help us put it together. And of course, get us on all our social media, TikTok, Blue Sky, get us on Spotify, but the main one is X at CW Pod 1888. And Paddy does the TikTok if you like all that jazz. So anyway, let's just get right in about it, Paddy, without any further ado, because it is late in the hour. We'll talk about some of the action, but let's talk about the players. Hopefully he's not going to drop out. So we'll talk about some of the players. We'll talk about some of the performances. And for me, well, the man of the match, it was a toss-up. It was a toss of a coin for me. It could have been one of James Forrest, who unfortunately didn't get that goal. We're going to have to go all out at the weekend to try and secure him that goal, to keep the streak going of getting his goal on a league match for 16 seasons. It's absolutely wild. Hopefully he gets that. But if not, the other person we should be talking about is Malik Narodsky. Large Mike, out of cold storage. It was mentioned, it was played about with, would we get him on the team sheet? We didn't think we'd seen Mirotsky, but Paddy, I'm just saying, it's a toss-up for that man of the match.
Yeah.
Is it Joe's favourite son, James Forrest, or is it Malik Narodsky, mate?
For me, it was Narodsky, mate. He was solid at the back. His goal aside, I mean, he took that well, and it's nice to see Celtic getting a goal for a corner for a wee change, but at the back, mate, I thought he looked solid. Everything that kind of come in behind him, he was there. He was alert. Absolutely brilliant. That's exactly what you want for these guys coming in. You want to see them play with a bit of passion and fight for their spot, because, listen, there is a spot available there. As much as Trusty thinks his spot's nailed on, there is a position there to be stolen. And I think Mike Narodsky done himself proud tonight. I thought he played really well.
As we say, we'll go through some of the action, and as we say, if you're watching along, if you've got anything you want to talk about, fire in there and we'll try to bring it up. We'll get as many thoughts as possible as we can, rather than just all being about us talking away there, because what you're thinking is just as valid, if not more so, because we can sometimes be a wee bit slanted by our own preferences. But looking at that side, Paddy, it was experimental, to say the least. I sent it out to the group that raised a few eyebrows. I sent it out to a few other people, and I got quite a lot of wheel scud them. And I ain't gonna lie, I didn't genuinely think when I looked at it, I thought we were more than capable of beating Aberdeen, but did I think it was going to be as comfortable, as energetic, as seamless as it was? Then I probably would be lying to you if I said I would. Now, we'll get through the action, but as I say, I just want to touch on a couple of guys. See, for me, looking at that game, it was all about James Forrest. He was the driving force of that entire game. It was a shame that he didn't get that goal. It wasn't for the will of trying. I always try to poke the ball to him, but mate, he's just, he bleeds green and he's evergreen. The energy, the purpose, driving for the byline, firing in the crosses, literally grabbing the game with the scruff of the neck. He was a real spark, and that was echoed on the other side as well with Yang, who I was very impressed with as well, mate.
It's madness. James Forrest had Shinnie in his back pocket all day long. Every time James Forrest got the ball, Shinnie pat his chance. He really did. He was nowhere. He just didn't know how to handle James Forrest, and he was driving to the line, and he cut inside a few times, and I said he just done him the full game. The only thing James's performance lacked was that goal that every single person that supports Celtic is willing him to get. He totally deserves it. I'd probably have gave him one of the free kicks as well. Like Bernardo skied one as well. I gave that to James. He told me to have a wee dig, but listen, absolute fantastic performance by him. You said about Yang as well. How many times have we said this about that young lad? We said before that Brendan must see something in him because he came in and he had a few sniders, but then he comes on and he does performances like that, and he puts defenders under pressure. They don't know what he's going to do. I don't think he knows what he's going to do half the time. He just runs with the ball, and he's not scared to take people on. He's quite a silky wee player at some points.
I think the thing that I liked about Yang in particular was he's coming back for an injury. He's getting thrown in, but we all say this, don't we? Your chances might be finite.
Yeah.
Today was an exercise in there's a game, go and show what you've got. And I think by large, we'll talk about some of the other guys, but by large, some of the surprise packages that were fired in there, Nawrocki's we've just said.
Yeah.
I think Forrest, is he a surprise package? Yeah, no. But
it's a surprise starter.
Exactly, because we were sitting here, as we saying, thinking, right, is he going to bring in Kuhn the likes for the start? No, he doesn't. But Yang, coming back for an injury, really, really grabbed the game and showed what he was worth. And what I also liked about the game as well is, and I've got it here in my notes if you see me peering down, was he took an absolute kicking, but he kept getting back up. It didn't change him. When he was first in the squad, when he first came in, a good knock and he would shy away, he'd climb up and he'd stop. He never, look, in the first 5 minutes, in fact, first 10 minutes, he get clattered twice. He get wiped out on 2 occasions, bounced back up, kept going. And there's something there that's grown in him, a confidence, a wee bit of determination. I'm not going to go down the standard route and say he looks he's got a wee bit more about him than that. Physically, yes, he doesn't look as slight as he did, but I really liked how direct he was. And as I say, it was like a mirror image of what James Forrest was doing. The two of them, it's been a long time since we've seen two wingers do the exact same thing, pick up the ball, drive, take on people, try to create chances. It was just, it helped with our fast flowing style that we want to do, mate.
100%. Listen, I've said that so many times. I want to see that for Celtic. I want to see us drive to the byline and batter the ball across the face of the goal, because when you go back and you look at the start of the season, most of our goals came for stuff like that. When you'd Nicholas Kuhn and Dizamaida bombing it down the wings and smashing the ball across, and that's what it takes. Do you know what I mean? That's what you need to be doing against these teams, because nobody wants a player taking them to the byline, because it's dangerous, especially up against a team with Celtic's pace.
Yeah. See, just as I'm saying, talking about, I said about Yang taking a couple of knocks on it. Yeah.
About his physicality.
Aye. As I say, talking about taking a couple of knocks, I don't want to sort of scatter around, but I just want to touch on it because a few folk have mentioned it and I see it. And we'll go on to it when we talk about the subs, because obviously we saw Rio getting off there. I was very surprised at how physical that game was, mate. And we sat here and we had the question about, as we say, are we going to, tee up the guys so they get a wee run of games, get the confidence in them, think, do we start Ida, who would be going, Casper Schmeichel, blah, 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 so on and so forth, right? I am glad that, bar the one thing, and hopefully it's nothing serious, that we got through that quite cleanly, because the tackles from the opening minute to the death were flying in. I don't really know about McLean, how you saw his refereeing of the game, got out an early booking and stuff, which I thought was going to set the tone, but I felt there was a lot of the game where Celtic were that close at times to picking up a couple injuries. It was almost as if, and it's not something I would associate with Aberdeen teams of the past. Folk might have a different opinion for me. Certainly it's not something that I associate with Jimmy Tielen's side. Yeah, he's got one or two choppers on his side, as he always has, right? But he always tried to play a wee bit of football. But it was almost as if the brief to them was, you're a second string team, they're a second string team there, but by the way, there's going to be some of these guys that are going to feature. See how many of them you can wipe out.
Aye, it seemed like was it the first 2 minutes I think I'd seen there, was it the boy Dorrington gets booked, and he's wiped the player out. Do you know what I mean?
Wipes out Yang, he just absolutely
he just went straight in. His boots quite high. I think you see, was it? I can't remember. I think it was John Kennedy. Sorry, turns around and kind of looks at Brendan like, "What's going on here?" Do you know what I mean? Like that's got to be a bit. It was a bit much. Cards out straight away. Fair play to the ref, and I was similar to yourself. I thought, right, at least he's going to kind of help us out a wee bit here and back it up a bit. But they got away with a few as well, a few niggly ones.
I thought Papa Gay was outrageous, by the way.
I was just going to say it. We'll probably touch on it. Gay, he should have been sent off when the one at the end. Well, near the end when he chops, was it Yang again on the byline, or Hatate as well?
He gets Yang, and ultimately his killer tackle is on Hatate. But I thought he'd been riding the lightning a long, long time in that. And actually, it was really interesting. As I said, from a betting perspective, I had on some bookings for those. Always gamble responsibly. Papa Gay was like 45. That's how much they knew he was getting a booking. It was mental.
It's madness, mate. Yeah, and like you said, when you're playing against a team like that, and you've got them in a cup final, to play a lot of your players that you're going to rely on in that final against them when you're 3-1 up, 4-1 up at some points. Yeah, you want to see all your players playing, but I would have kept them off. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't have put on Hatate. I wouldn't have put on Ida. I wouldn't have risked any of my players. Because
this is the thing. I know we're doing things in a wee bit of reverse here, but this is the exact thing I want to know now. We sit here, and Kaiser brings us up right now. We sit here and we praise the in-game management of BrendanRodgers, and I think with hindsight, and we look at it, and obviously the performance was just outshone what we thought we probably would have got out of that starting lineup, right? But it's 4-1 up, right? You are cruising. Yeah, maybe some of the guys, the legs were getting tired. But see if you bring on players that you know are going to be featured mainstays, guys that you want in that final, guys that you want to be getting some level of game time on Trophy Day at Celtic Park, right? I can understand you bringing on a defender. I can understand you bringing on Ida as a striker. But see, agile, sharp, quick-footed midfielders and wingers against what we saw, I think it was, and I'll say it, it was piss poor judgment by BrendanRodgers. There was absolutely no need to even bring on Kuhn or Hatate, in my opinion, because by that point, that late on in the game, when you saw the measure of the tackles from start to finish, it was a risk. Yeah. It was like closing your eyes and chucking a set of knives into a crowd.
Aye, knock it was, mate, and that's it. It was poor judgment, I'll say, by the manager, but he's obviously wanting to finish the game off and send out a bit of a message. And I think we've done that. I think the message was sent out, and we've done it without risking too many players. I'm gutted, obviously, Hatate seemed to have a wee injury there, wee bit of ice on his knee. Hopefully that's not too bad, and he can get back to full strength for the weekend.
Yeah, that's the thing. But anyway, let's rewind back into some of the actions we see. So it starts off, it's a wee bit sort of, it's a million miles going at it. What happenings? I says very impressed with the early. I like the purpose. The tone setters definitely were Forrest, were Yang, and we're picking up, they're getting the right positions. Yang has a couple of early chances that are a wee bit wasteful, I suppose. Both are headers, actually. Now, we've seen them score headers, but both of them are pretty much headers. But the goal that does comes to another guy that we're sitting singing his praises, is large Mike Big Narodsky. And mate, get it framed, get that picture framed, and hang it up behind you, because we scored for a corner. We scored for a corner.
I know.
And
How
mate,
many times have we sat here?
It's a very good header. And it's one thing that I would say, we'll talk about Narodsky post talking about this goal here. I like the physicality, and he's been proven to be good in here.
Yes. Not only in the opposition's box, in his own box. And I've said it before, Liam Scales is brilliant in the opposition's box, but he's shite in his own box. He's one of the guys, he's crap in air. Trusty, you could say the same. He's just, for a big lad, he doesn't seem to attack the ball enough for corners and stuff like that. But yeah, listen, Big Mike, ball comes in and he's there, gets the head on it, and it's a collector's item for a Celtic team as a goal for a set piece. It's,
you know, my mind deserts me. Who took the corner?
Luke McCowan.
There we go. I mean, Luke McCowan's not listening. He's not going to be starting at most games, unfortunately. It will be Engels, but lessons to be learned, because that's a good ball in, by the way.
It was a really good ball, yeah.
Narodsky, let's shine a wee bit of light on him, because, see, for me, mate, he's really got to be asking a question. Now, what does Mike Narodsky need to do to get himself involved properly in this BrendanRodgers squad? Because we come and we say this all the time. We say we don't see them in training. We don't know what the attitude's like, the application, the fitness, etc., etc. But see, every single time that he's been called on this season, in my opinion at least, which is probably worth nothing in the world of football management, I have been impressed. And I hate the phrase where we say there's a player in there, but I look at him and I look at some of the games that he's been chucked into, particularly like the Rangers game stuff. I thought very good, you know. And anytime he's come in, it's been literally like cold storage. It's not been like, oh, he's been drip fed on. There's be 10 minutes, 50 minutes. It's like no game time for like weeks, and then bang, you're in. And he looks like a duck to water. Very, very comfortable. And then you mirror that to the guy that's beside him, which we discussed the other night there, which is Trusty, who is getting game time and has been playing more frequently. And the two things aren't the same. One looks capable and ready and should be getting a chance. The other has been getting chances and been given lukewarm results.
100%. I mean, if you look at that game, right, and you watch that game as a singular game, you've not seen any other games this season, and you say what one of the players is the guy who's been playing every single week in defence, you would probably have said Narodsky. There's no chance you would have picked Trusty over him, because he just looks so comfortable. He's good on the deck as well, and so was Sinsalo, I must say. Like his passing on the deck and stuff like that was absolutely brilliant. He looks a lot more comfortable than a lot of other keepers we've seen playing with the ball at his feet, that was pretty good to see. So listen, Big Rocky, he's got to start next week against St Mirren as well.
And this is the thing, it was a very different game for him. Sometimes we criticise defenders that come in because Celtic have usually get so much of the ball where they can switch off, right? Now, I thought tonight, albeit it wasn't the best players that were out for Aberdeen, the strongest side, if you will, but it had an element of danger, right? Sometimes the likes of Narodsky, Trusty, Scales, we say, you know, the lapse in concentration when they're not asked to do any real work, not asked to do any real defending, and then it happens and that's their undoing, right? But see, tonight, as I say, it was hell for leather. It was end-to-end stuff constantly.
Yeah.
In some respects for us, it was because it was good quality football. But for Aberdeen, it was just direct. It was literally, again, a bunch of guys that were thrown out there that didn't care. They were just going to do what they wanted to do and try and attack. And he was put up against more pressure, I would probably say, against this Aberdeen side than if they'd fielded a proper team. And he dealt amicably, but he'd done so well with all. He'd that late challenge as well, where they get caught out in behind. It's almost a free shot, and he slides across and blocks it. Positionally, he just looked so comfortable. And I think I would hope to God that Nawrocki gets more time at the weekend, maybe a cameo in the cup final, but definitely through the pre-season, play him, because we're going to be looking. We know we need better in the defensive sort of side of things, in the central defence. It could well be an option. It's a small sample size. Give him game time.
Yeah. What did we pay for him? Was it like 5 million or something?
I was about 4.5 there around.
Yeah, that was round about that kind of mark. So when you're bringing in somebody in that position, paying that kind of money for them, we thoroughly expected him to be like a first team starter. And I think he got off to quite a slow start. He looked like he was made of glass in the beginning. Anytime somebody kind of got close to him, he was down with an injury and he was out for a little bit. But like you said, now the last few games that we've seen him coming in, he's looked like he's been there forever. And he just looked so comfortable on the ball. There was one of the crosses that was put into the box. I think it was the guy Morris puts a cross into the box, and it's actually kind of coming in behind him, but he turns and he does a diving header and puts the ball out of the park. If you've got Trusty in there, he's nowhere. Do you know what I mean? He'd have just let that ball go in, and you're going to end up losing.
And again, this is an interesting point. We're talking about this, and Kaiser does have a point. He makes a good point here. It's something we've often says, particularly when we're going to Champions League, we're talking about it. Trusty is quite good on the turn. He has decent recovery pace. Scales is good pace, kind of marauding forward, but not so much on the back turn. So I understand what to do. But as he says here, and as we saw tonight, again, caveat it wasn't tip-top Aberdeen. It wasn't the best team we're going to play. However, you can make up for a lack of pace by positional awareness. Yes. And for me, that's what Nawrocki definitely had. As we said, him and Trusty together, he looked like the far more accomplished player. He looked like the guy that had been signed from England, if you want to put a big fancy, playing in England and all, for £6 million. That's the guy that he looked like. Better positional awareness, throwing his body on the line, good in the air. The goal we lose, I think, is just a shambles for everybody, right? But you can't hang him out to dry for that, because I didn't think he was particularly part of the problem. That's more a Schlupp issue, if you ask me. But also the benefits of good with the ball at his feet, comfortable range of passing, and at times it very quickly turned. At first, when they were bedding in, it was almost as if Trusty's going, I'm the first team player. In the early stages, when we got the ball out for the back, he was the guy that was wanting to do the passing, and he quickly realised he was guff at it and overtook Nawrocki.
Yeah. Nah, that's it, mate. Listen, he looked, it was a full package tonight. That's why I said, for me, he was my man of the match. He really was. He was a standout. And even if you take the goal away, just defensively, I thought he was solid. He looked comfortable at every single point. And that, for me, is exactly what we've been screaming for. So, fingers crossed, Brendan obviously noticed that and gives him a bit more game time. He's got to play him next week. Do you know what I mean?
And that's the thing that I would say is see, when we look at it, again, just to finish up on Nawrocki, the thing I can't get my head around about is why he's not been playing is, like, again, we talk about this, it might be physicality, it might be fitness, and we've says, if it would joke before, we'd be like, well, it'd help if he was fit, right? But see, anytime we've been listening to the press conferences with the manager and say, any squad updates, right? He would never say, Nawrocki's not available. It would be such and such is out, he's out. Other than that, we've got a full squad. Yet there'd be points where he wasn't even making a bench. So he's fit, he's available. That begs the question as to why he hasn't featured. However, as I say, anytime he's been called upon, I think he showed a steady hand, and I would like to see a wee bit more of him. Good performance for him. We rewind back to a wee bit of the action. Obviously, we had that stoppage where we had an issue with a fan in the crowd. Never nice to see these kind of things happening. I think it turns out we had a Lazarus return to form when he got up and he was able to walk about. So at least that's good news. But we lose a goal off the back of that break, quite a substantial break. And similar to like we did against Hibs, where we did the wee water break and the cool down, we just switched off.
Yeah.
Poor goal to lose, I suppose. As we say, I think for me, it's piss poor defensively. It comes down that right hand side. Ralston's a wee bit exposed. The ball comes in. Central defenders aren't really there, but I think they're caught on the sort of the hoof that with that one, and Schlupp's nowhere near it. Who again, it's been said in the comments, and I'll just get it out there. Schlupp can get down the road. I've done a complete 180 on that.
Yeah.
He very much looks like a guy who was up here now for a paycheck, and he get a wee medal or two before he goes.
Yeah, I'd quite happily drive Schlupp down the road. I thought he was absolute garbage tonight. It's not the first time I've seen that for him in a Celtic shirt. It just looks like he's not really got anything for me. I expected so much for him coming in. Obviously, Premier League player, played for Crystal Palace, scored some absolute worldies. I was like, yeah, this guy's coming up. He's going to be pretty decent up here. And it just looks like he can't keep up with the game. Really does. Like you said, I think he's one of these guys, ex-Premier League player that thinks he can just come up to Scotland, play a couple of games and get a couple of medals, and that'll be him. That'll do his career. But yeah, the goal, I thought we were caught again. And it seems we switch off after wee things like that. Like you said, the water break against Hibs, and then obviously the guy in the crowd tonight. Celtic seemed to be a bit not on the ball at that point. Do you know what I mean? They kind of took the eye off the ball for a wee second, and then obviously they conceded the goal. And I thought after that it just went back to normal. Then Celtic just got the possession back again and just started, right, let's start again. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Here we go. And at no point did you feel like we were under pressure from it. They got the goal, yeah, fair play. Good finish by Kevin Nisbet. He's got to create all the power on that header as well. It's got nothing on it when it comes to him. So he's basically got to do everything from there. Sinsalo, I think, was caught a bit hot-footed. He's went to move to the left and the ball's going in, and he's had to double back on himself. But it is what it is. Do you know what? You lose the goal, and the heads didn't go down.
Yep. And that's the thing. It's Typhoon sitting there. You just touched on Sinsalo. The goal, and I would say, I see any goals that he's lost for Celtic, I don't think he's been... I don't think he's been at fault. I think they're the ones that he just couldn't help it. It kind of happens. It's a decent goal by Nisbet. As I say, it's defensively. I think we just fail to pick up the pace. And again, there's more important things than the football at times, if we said it, but is that it started to drag on. I'm like, right, get the guys off the pitch, get the jackets on. They're starting to cool down. I knew exactly what was going to happen. As the season, he kind of gets under it. Sinsalo won that. Yep. Again, it begs the question. We'd done that rotation. We had Casper at the weekend. We thought that was going to be the stay. Joe pitched it where he thought that he was actually not going to play Sinsalo. He's protecting him. Who knows? I'm at a stage I couldn't tell you. I don't even know who's going to play the weekend, and I certainly don't know who's going to play in the cup final during the sticks, between the sticks. For my money, I think Sinsalo's earned the right. He got us to there. He's contributed as much, if not arguably maybe more, in those latter stages to get us to the final. And I think it would be a good send-off for him. You know, Casper had his moment in the sun with the League Cup final, he had the bulk of the league season, so he's earned those medals, and I think it's time for Sinsalo to well and truly earn his medal should we go over the line in the cup final. I'd start him, as you say, I think he looks very good. There was question marks over it when you looked at his body of work up until that in terms of real competitive first team football. But yeah, he does look the real deal. He's got great stopping ability. One thing I like as well is he can pick the ball out of the air. He's confident holding on to a lot of shots, and also a keeper that comes out and attacks crosses, mate.
Yeah, that's it. He was playing sweeper keeper at one point as well, and he run out and headed
Brilliant.
the ball away.
Brilliant.
I thought with Manuel Neuer in the back and the sticks, mate. Honestly, he's sprinting out there for a header. I was like, all right, this is what we need. We've not really had that. Somebody that's willing to actually bomb it out off the box, because let's be honest, Joe Hart, as much as he was a fantastic keeper, didn't have that pace in him to actually bomb it out towards a striker and header the ball away.
And do you know what? It's brave as well. It's anticipation, but it's brave because you need to be confident at your own pace and stuff. Because how many times do we see a keeper charging out and it gets knocked around him?
And they go,
I like that. And he dug McGregor out of a hole there because McGregor didn't have the pace to catch up with. I think it was Papagay, and he comes out and he cleans it out. But really, really good for there. But we get in the goal, and of course we get deep into that stoppage time. Deep. It's officially 52 minutes if you want to run the clock, but it's still the first half. And it's a Yang Yang, mate. He makes up for it. He makes up for his wee misses, his wee headers earlier on. It's just a nice wee instinctive sort of finish off the back of a mistake. But again, great to see him coming back. Great application, great attitude, and a goal. It was perfect. It was the only things we say it was missing for James Forrest's performance because Yang put in just as much effort and he got his rewards, mate.
Yeah, he did. Listen, he's there. You've got to be there to score them. He's standing at the back post, ball comes in and he just adjusts his body and tucks it away. I thought at that point that'd have been the nail in the Aberdeen coffin. For me, that was the one, obviously. If they get in at half time at 1 each, they'd be getting a wee bit of a confidence boost there. I think as soon as Yang scores that puts the head down. Great finish, great assist. Just all round good play for Celtic, and that's
that again. It just to jump in, it was all created once again by Forrest. We get that goal down. We're deep into stoppage time, and he drives. He takes on two guys. He goes past them. Nice save. Keeper, as we say, flaps a wee bit at it, but good, real solid work for the guys. And I agree with you, mate. I think if Aberdeen get in at 1 each, they're probably thinking, right, we can just boot fuck into them a wee bit more, and we'll get something out of this game.
Aye, 100%, mate. And like you say, you just took the words right out of my mouth there. That's what I've been talking about is we want our players to drive for the byline. We want them to smash the ball in like the way Ralston does, the way Johnston does as well. And it's nice. And that's where we get most of our goals, is that position. Players driving for the byline. You know the player's going to do it, but you can't stop it. James Forrest is a cracking turn of pace. Do you know what I mean? He might be aging, but he's still got that turn of pace and he's still got the desire.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, as we say, we're talking about performances. For me, I said flip a coin. For me, it was either Forrest or Nawrocki. There's equal measure to why you can do it. You look at the Forrest, the case for his man in the match, all action, all purpose, multiple hands and goals.
Yeah.
That's what you want. But then you also look at Nawrocki and you say, out of absolutely nowhere into the team, goal, and covered himself in glory by large of the game, how he played. So again, it depends on what you like. Do you like the attacking side, or do you like the sort of dirty side of the game? You pick your man of the match. But again,
see it as well. I mean, Luke McCown. I don't think Luke McCown had a fantastic game.
That's who I was wanting to pick up on. That's who I was wanting to pick up on because he gets the goal. He gets the third goal there, and again, let's say it's all James Forrest. It's James Forrest again, driving, gets it into them, and it's a good finish. It's a good high finish, good sweeps at home by McCown. And he's another guy, by the way, he took an absolute battering in that game.
Yeah, he did. And again, just shrugged it off. Just you seen the power in him, the desire to keep going. I thought he kind of went under the radar a little bit. He was getting on the ball. I thought he was trying to do too much in the first half. He was trying to take too much on and try to basically walk the ball into the back of the net a little bit. But once he kind of started to tire a bit, probably, he started moving about and just pinging the passes here and there. And that's when you start to see a bit of a difference in his game. So you're obviously saying Nawrocki, man of the match, obviously for me, and there's a thing with there for James Forrest. But if somebody's getting 2 assists and a goal in a game,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's interesting that because he's a guy that on the sort of podcast and later, more recent, we've sort of says, he came in and he looked the part. Bear in mind, I know value and price means nothing. An absolute bargain, right? And I think he can only get better again. He's another guy who he's just playing on raw passion, love for cover at the moment. Accomplished footballer, make no doubts about it. But once he gets that proper, finds his place. This is where you fit into the structure, and it will be bit part. It'll be, plugging gaps and coming on subs appearances. But once he gets fully down that system, gets that pre-season, I think there's no reason why he can't kick on and be another sort of Hartley or Robson type signing for Celtic, where it's just homegrown players that understand the league, understand the expectation, and rise to it. So I'm positive, but again, he was one of the changes that come into midfield. Do you think he gave a good account of himself versus Bernardo, who both of us really do like, and in our wee chat, as we says, mixed reactions on Bernardo?
Again, I thought he kind of went under the radar. All of the midfield did. I don't know. Most of our play was down the wings. It was mostly kind of just skipping out the midfield. Bernardo broke up a lot of the play, got involved quite a bit there. His free kick was a bit poor towards the end, but yeah, we didn't see a great performance for him. He didn't set the header alight, but he done enough. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they were called upon to do any more than what they did, if that makes sense.
I mean, I think Bernardo's a guy that I was obviously champion. Still a big fan of him. He's been a wee bit disappointing since he came back. In the early stages of the game, I thought, and I was texting into our group chat there because I know Joe was not really enjoying what he was seeing with his eyes. And I said, you know what? He said a couple of ropey shots, kind of wasteful, bit garbage there. However, as you say, he's going under the radar. The attention was very much on, McCown putting that about with all action, your Forrest, Yang, stuff like that. So, and Cal McGregor, I didn't really think Cal McGregor had a massive hand in the game, but that was the one thing that we were doing differently was we were far more down the flanks. A lot of our play in some games have been through the middle. It's into Cal McGregor, into Engels to get the ball moving. We almost bypassed that, and they were just a segue out to the wingers, give it to Forrest, charge direct, old school football. Him and Yang. So the midfield was kind of taking care of itself a wee bit. Cal McGregor moving around, not doing too much, but nothing spectacular. Bernardo, as I say, I felt in the early stages, he was finding positions, he was looking for the ball, he was making himself available. But again, he sort of faded, and I was a wee bit disappointed. It might be hard for him coming back from injury and stuff and a bit part. I certainly don't think he's played himself into contention to start the weekend, and definitely not for the cup final. I think very much looking at it, Bernardo's season's over for me, whereas McCown has showed a wee bit more, but he might get a bit more game time.
Yeah, I think obviously if the injury to Hatate has anything in it,
that's there you go.
I think McCown will probably get the start, but I think Engels has got to come back in as well. And I suppose obviously we'll touch on a young lad as well that come on, young McArdle. I thought he was outstanding, mate. His touch, his desire, everything. I just thought that young lad looked absolutely incredible every time he got the ball.
Yeah, so, I thought we'll get on to him because he's one of the subs that do come on, and there's a lot of chat. Let us know. We've got some saved there or comments. Let us know what you think of young McArdle. Definitely looks the real deal. Let's not get Rangers and too ahead of ourselves that he's the greatest player in the world, but certainly a good outing from him. 50 million. But another guy, mate, that we were all championing, that we were all getting behind, was Johnny Kenny. And again, done himself no harm, gets his goal on 53 minutes. It's a nice header, it's a very clean header at the penalty spot, and he puts it away. Early on in the game, he was making some good runs, a couple of good control, and tries to get a couple of shots off. I thought he was doing all the right things. A wee bit starved, actually. He sort of chances early on, maybe first half hour. So says that's because a lot of the ones were coming down the wings and stuff. He wasn't really getting the service, but the couple of times that they did get the ball into him, he looks quite assured. Now again, either gets his goal, 20 goals, brilliant, love it, good to see. But we said last night, what does the future hold for Kenny? Can he prove something to get himself in the picture? Don't think tonight done him any harm. I think he needs to get, again, time at the weekend. I would start him again at the weekend. Is he going to feature in a cup final?
Probably
Unless he's not going to start. But if we get ourselves ahead, no reason why he can't come on 65 minutes. But I think any game time he gets between now and that final is imperative, but he also, like Nawrocki, needs a good chance and a good body of games in the pre-season, because I genuinely think he's got something to offer, and you can see there's a good quality player in there. What do we criticise him about? 9 million Adamida, the English league guy, the international for Ireland. What do we criticise him about? Timing of runs, control and touch. You see, every time the ball got fired into Kenny, whether he was running onto a ball or whether it was played into him, physicality, hold the ball off, doesn't lose it. All the stuff that we want either to do and do well, you're getting out of him, a slightly faster looking young guy, but also quite physical for his stature, because he's no massive. I liked what I saw of him, mate.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, he wins the ball in the air as well, and he does not known for that as well. Like you say, the kind of physicality side of it. I think if that ball comes in and you've got Ida up front, he's not getting on the end of it. He'd probably try and bring it down and scuff it or something. And I'm not putting the guy down. Obviously, like 20 goals in a season for one of your strikers is decent. But yeah, I like what I see with Kenny. I really do. I think there's definitely something there. There's definitely a little bit of what we've been looking for. I think he gives a bit more than Ida. But obviously Ida still gets his goal, and you've got to be in that position, obviously, to get the goal. But yeah, I'd be kind of more going towards Johnny Kenny than Ida, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, that's bold. I think the game of the weekend, listen, is a party. It is what it is, right? Of course we want to win it. But I think, you look at the opposition, you're going to be able to swat them aside.
Yeah.
Nothing to play for. And that's that. I think, for me, Kenny needs to start. I liked what we saw and give him an opportunity to kick on. Either comes on and he scores, which is good. That's fine. He's going to be the stick on. He's going to be the guy who's playing up front in the final. It's going to be happening. It's obviously going to be Maeda's in there as well. So this is his opportunity tonight and at the weekend, and then into the pre-season. But I liked what I saw of Johnny Kenny. I was pretty impressed, and I was glad for him. I was glad for him to get a goal. I texted earlier into the group and I says, I thought this was make or break. He had to do something. He had to show something. And I think he gave a very, very good account of himself. Yeah. So let's go on to good accounts of himself, because there's a lot of love for the young boy, McArdle. Yeah. He comes on. I think, again, caveat it, we're cruising. So it's sometimes easier to come on into a game when you've got the wind in your sails. And, you can play freely and express yourself. But he had a technical ability, touch, control, eye for a pass, and also the way that he held himself and moved around midfield. It was a wee bit like sort of experience and, beyond these years. You forget he's a young laddie. Very, very good, mate.
Looks so confident. What is he, 17? And to come in there at 17 years old, even if you're an experienced player coming on at 3-1 or 4-1 or whatever the score is, you're still out there to do a job. And I thought the wee guy done absolutely fantastic. Like you said, his touch, his confidence at going by people, his control on the ball, holding people off, challenging back, and everything about his game, for me, I thought was absolutely brilliant. I'd probably say he done more in the short time he was on than what we've probably seen for Bernardo. Yeah. And that's, do you know what I mean? For a young laddie to come on and show that kind of confidence is absolutely brilliant. That's exactly what you're looking for. And I'm not surprised everybody's kind of singing his praises there as well, because he's come in and he's done absolutely fantastic. So for me, he's got to be first name in the team sheet next week. Let's see what he can do.
How do things work for the likes of McArdle now? As we know, the manager spoke about youth guys time over, right? The whole Boston Wow thing, Rocco Vata, Cummings, you name them. He's mentioned it, where it's you can be a good player, doesn't mean you're going to be a good Celtic player. And there's always, we talk about the pathway and all this kind of stuff. What I would say is, and it might just be lip service, because as people are saying we need to tie him down, fed up of losing good players, don't want that to happen. Of course we don't. And now is the time to give these guys a chance. The league's done, it's out the way. They should be getting time. Realistically, how easy or hard or difficult is it going to be for McArdle, regardless of the talent that he's got, to really get himself into squads at Celtic, because herein lies the problem, doesn't it? Start the season will come, we'll declare that B team and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's almost redundant having him in there. If Celtic are serious and want him in about the squad, then you either have him with the team and it's just bide your time, wee man, and you make the bench and you maybe never get on, or you do the responsible thing and you loan him out to a good team, a championship team, or a Hibs or an Aberdeen. Or so. That's what Celtic need to do. I think that's what Celtic need to do.
Yeah. Aye. For me, bringing them in and having them sit on the bench, I think it's just it'll waste them. I think the young lad does need a good bit of game time. When you look at the position that he's going to be playing as well, he's kind of fighting with Arnie Engels, isn't he? Because he seems to play on that right-hand side. And when you brought in Arnie Engels for 12 million, you're not going to bring somebody for your youth and just throw them straight in there. Obviously, Hatate on his day, I would say he's a far better player. And probably like McCown and Bernardo as well are up there. So there's a lot of people in that position. There's a lot of very big personalities and stuff as well. So, yeah, the wee man's got a lot to do, but fingers crossed he can keep showing what he can do. So,
do you think that, again, I know it's a different situation because this game tonight, it's all changed. The league's won. There's nothing really in it. There was something in it for Aberdeen. They were clinging on that. Hope they might finish third. But what I'm getting at is, see with the likes of McCardle and stuff, right? And understand you pay fees and you've got your first team guys that you rotate. So at this moment in time, you're looking Bernardo, you're looking McCown, Engels, McGregor, Hatate. Change them about maybe 1, 2 other, depending on what we sign, right? So it's hard for you to get into these sort of ones. But we talk about good squad management and stuff, and I get every player wants to be playing week in, week out. Of course they do. But I'm just thinking along the lines of, like, when there's a slight opportunity to maybe experiment or try things out in the next season, the early stages of the cup, you could substitute him in, have the rest of the top players around him against, I don't know, whoever you draw, Airdrie, and first game of the cup, or newly promoted, again, who may it be, Livingston or Boddybell, Falkirk. Could you put him in, start him against Falkirk with the rest of the guys around him? I think so.
Yeah, of course you could. Even the game coming up against St Mirren as well, I'd be quite happy starting them in that. I think somebody said in the chat there, give him the full first half and see how he goes. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Wilson's saying there as well, what position does he play? For me, he kind of looks like a right-sided midfielder. He seemed to kind of slot into where Arnie Engels normally plays. Now, obviously, I'm not an expert on the youth squad. I've not really watched a lot of the youth setup, but he's played like the kind of centre mid role as well, like the kind of Callum role. So
I mean, here's a point just while we're talking about bringing for Graham, and I like this. Lennon Miller is a sort of mercurial young Scottish talent, right? Now, I just want to throw this out here when I said about how do we develop a guy like this if we think he's the real deal.
Yes.
My suggestion would be, as I say, have him in around the squad, give him a wee bit of time here and there, right? However, look at Lennon Miller. Let's just say Lennon Miller was on our books.
Yeah.
Let's say McCardle, for all we know, is of the standard Lennon Miller is right now. We're never really going to know that because we're not Motherwell. We aren't in that position where we have to, or we will play these young guys week in, week out.
Yeah.
So how do we find that out? Is it, and how should Celtic find that out? Is it, as we said, have him in around the squad? He might never ever play. He might get 10 minutes, 50 minutes here, maybe even get a half, maybe get a wee cup game. Or do you sit down with him, you come up with a plan, and you say, right, wee man, first half of the season, you're going out on loan, you're going to, I don't know, Falkirk, you're going to Partick Thistle, whoever it may well be. Rather than this B squad Lowland League garbage.
Aye, playing against teams like Albion Rovers and East Kilbride.
Mary Hill Stanklifters, know what I mean? Like, pointless.
Yeah, exactly, mate.
Jobs, garbage.
You're playing against joiners and other folk. Listen, these young laddies need, for me, if they've got the talent to be in and around the squad, they need to be training with the first team and seeing what it takes. I mean, this young laddie, if he's in there and he's training alongside Hatate and Engels and Bernardo and Calmac, he'll take so much for that than what he would take training with, no offence, young guys his own age that are pretty much at the same stage he is. If you're training or you're playing with people who are better than you, you're going to up your game. You're going to get better. And that comes down to every single sport. That's not just football. Do you know what I mean? You've got to just keep that and progress.
Absolutely not. By the way, sorry, John, but absolutely not, Snitch. I wouldn't send my worst enemy to Livingston. Absolute terrorist-like football. They're the absolute anti-football. Of course, they're not the anti-football in the Championship, because apparently you can win games there, and you can set your team up to try and win games, right? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But in our league, absolutely not. See, if I want them to learn how to put the ball down and sit in, they'll go to Livingston. Absolutely not.
Like Kaiser says, on the Lego pitch. I love it.
It's got a carpet.
It's embarrassing. It's absolutely horrible. Listen, as I say, I was at Falkirk on Sunday. I was invited down to Falkirk on Sunday, and they've got an artificial park there as well.
Oh, I know.
I tell you what, mate, what a stadium and what a pitch it was. The pitch was incredible. I was on it at the end, and we were kicking the ball about at the end. And do you know what? It's probably one of the best pitches I've seen, artificial wise. It was a cracking park. Now, I'm not one of these people that are going to champion it, and I really don't want them. But out of all of the parks that I've seen, theirs actually held its own. It's a bit of a sponge to it, a bit of a cushion to it as well. It felt kind of like grass. It was decent.
I'm not having it. I'm not having it. But anyway, let's wrap up. We've been going a wee bit late on here, as we say. We finish up. Unfortunately, Forrest doesn't get the goal. Boo. Boo. I think, mate, he needed it, and it was forever coming. We tried, but somebody who did get a goal, and in doing so, set another nice new record for Celtic, Adam Ida. Poacher's goal, 20, 3 strikers over the 20 mark. For the longest time in a long time. And again, Adam Ida, we come back to it, mate. 20 goals is a decent return.
It's madness, and if you say that, like 20 goals is decent for a season. Now you look at Adam Ida, and we give him some amount of stick. He came in with that 9 million price tag, but if you'd have said to me, right, we're paying 9 million for Ida, you'll get 20 goals this season, would you take that? I go, oh fuck, 20 goals, no bother.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we give him stick week in, week out, because he misses stupid chances and he does daft things. But yeah, 20 goals for a striker's pretty decent.
Again,
I've played Forrest in every position.
I think we need to get a wee bit of perspective this season. Of course, listen, we're always reactionary, aren't we?
We wear a heart on our sleeve, Steve. That's what it is.
And that's the thing. We're always reactionary in terms of what we see. But again, we'll never apologise for that, because the stick or whatever it'll be will be merited. We always say we'll look through it the prism of what did we see in that 90 minutes or whatever it was, and the criticism has been due. But again, I fully agree. It's like the whole, when we were talking about the Champions League and we probably should have had more points and all that. If I says to you, this is what you're going to get, blindly at the start of the season, go absolutely. And if I turn around and says to you, you're going to get 20 goals out of a guy that you've signed, you would say, you would take it, absolutely, you'd take it.
Well, would you bite your hand off for it? It's a decent return for somebody who, in my opinion, hasn't yet hit his heights. And you said it before, you touched on it when we were talking about him, you're saying, a player like Adam Ida, you're never going to lose that 9 million on, because a team in the Championship will come in and they'll pay 9 million for him because he's proven down there and they know what he can do. Yep. Now, we paid 9 million, he scores 20 goals. Absolutely brilliant. A good pre-season, and if he is going to be the man, if he's going to be your number one striker, then I think that'll give him a wee boost. I think he needs that. Do you know what I mean? He needs to be the Billy Big Boss in there, if that makes sense. He needs to be the top boy.
I think we've said this before, but Ida, I think that he's a penalty box striker.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should be trying to reinvent the wheel with him. He wants to join up play, and he wants to, play a wee bit more football.
Yeah.
Maybe he's still young in terms of that you could still coach a wee bit out. And again, and Maeda's proof that you can change that, because he used to have the touch like a trampoline, and and just technical ability. I remember saying time over and time over about Maeda. Technical ability is a hard thing to coach once you're at a certain age. And I don't think you could develop that. I was wrong, and I'm happy to say I was wrong.
Aye.
I think with Ida, that might well come. But also as well, the conversion rate is decent. And it is maybe just because we are looking at X amount of time on the pitch, and he maybe, as we say, he'll maybe get 2, 3, 4 chances and he'll score one out of those, or he'll maybe score none of them, and that's frustrating. If he can sort of find that middle ground, if he can hit that switch where he can roughly half his chances, then you're right in the game. 20 goals is in the game. That's where you want to be. That's a good return for a striker. I think if he's able to just turn the screw a wee bit, tighten things up, and take more chances more regular, his 20 goal seasons will soon quickly turn into 25 to 28 and so on and so forth.
Yeah, 100%. And you look at it, this pre-season for us is going to be crucial. I think guys like Yang, I'd like to see him bulk up a little bit and come in sharper, and kind of like we did with Nicholas Kuhn. You seen Kuhn coming to the end of last year. You started to see there was a bit of a player there, but he did look a bit light and he did look a bit off the game.
Yeah.
And he come in at pre-season and he's banging goals in against Man City and Chelsea and making them look garbage. He was brilliant. Do you know what I mean? And I'd like to see stuff like that for Yang. I'd like to see Ida obviously get a bit fitter, a bit more like a racing snake, because he's not carrying a bit of timber, but he's not the fittest guy in the club. I'd like to see him get a bit more agile and start doing the runs off the ball and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, and players are totally different, right? They're different, as we well know, right? And again, this is just an observation. But you look at certain players, I know some folk are just sweaty, right? Let's be real here, right? But I do agree to an extent to what you're saying, because you look at Johnny Kenny, he played the most part of that game. He's putting himself about, charging runs, right? He hardly looked like he broke a sweat. You seen Big Ida when he bundled the ball into the net and he was soaking. He's been on for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I do think that there is a wee bit of tightening up that he needs to do, but I think a pre-season is going to do him wonders.
Yeah, and somebody like Johnny Kenny pushing him as well, because I think obviously I've looked at that tonight and went, all right, wait a minute, like Kenny's got a goal here. I'm coming on and I'm going to need to show a wee bit. So for the last 20 minutes, he probably has been blowing out his arse because he's got a point to prove, and he's known that. Do you know what I mean? He's no longer been the big I am, the number one striker, because somebody started before him and they've got a goal. So he's got to then come on and try and do a bit as well. So listen, fair play to him. He's there. He's jogging on the spot for the goal.
Yep.
And I guess that.
Well, let's bring it home. I'll finish up with this one. Obviously, we've got a game to look forward to tomorrow, by the way. Myself and Brian will be up bright and early tomorrow, 10:15 a.m. to talk about more Celtic. But I'll leave this with food for thought here, Paddy. I've asked Typhoid saying from tonight, who, if anyone, would you play in that final? Do you think, realistically, anybody that was thrown in out the cold tonight is going to make the final?
Yes. Mike Nawrocki. I think he has to make it. He was outstanding tonight. I think James Forrest should get a start as well. I think he's earned that. Probably Yang. I think he's maybe earned a spot.
I mean, this is the thing, but this is big questions, because you're talking, like, I can understand one guy. I think when I look at it, I think for me, if Nawrocki plays at the weekend, and he does that again, then I would say he's right in the race.
Yeah,
he's right in the race to be in there. I think because the Carter Vickers thing's unclear. Trusty, the wee bit that he's come in. One thing I would say is if it's going to be Nawrocki, the big question is going to be who's going to be alongside him. If it's not going to be Carter Vickers, which would obviously be very what you don't want to see, would you rather Scales? Would you rather Trusty there? If it was so, that's the question.
Fucking Bain, I don't know.
Bain.
You'd rather have Trusty than Scales. And their Scales likes to be the kind of left-sided player, as does Mike Nawrocki as well. So I think if you're going to play somebody in there, it has to be Big Trusty. It was good to see Alistair Johnson getting a wee cameo tonight as well. So I think obviously it'd be good to get him another half hour again at the weekend and see how he's going to be faring for going into the final, because the telepathy, we'll call it, between him and Nicholas Kuhn is just outstanding. They two, they know each other inside out, and it's absolutely fantastic to watch when they two are firing on all cylinders. Like nobody can deal with it. So yeah.
Well, Paddy, thanks for coming on so late, and thanks to everybody there for watching so late as well. As we said, we weren't planning on it, but a result like that, with a team like that, I had to come on and give the guys their flowers and talk about it. Happy days, and I tell you what, I know it was a shadow side for Aberdeen, but based on what I did see for them at the weekend, with their better team out, and what I saw tonight, the final could be a cracker. So I'm glad I'm going. I'm going, Paddy.
I'll be watching it for the middle of the North Sea, unfortunately.
Sounds exciting. Anyway, listen, thanks to everybody, as we say. Thanks for joining us. There we go. Thanks everybody for joining us. As says, we'll be back tomorrow morning. So if you're up at it bright and early and you want to talk more Celtic, you want to look towards the final game at home, Trophy Day, then join me and the bold Brian. We'll be up bright and early, 10:15 on YouTube to talk about that. Hopefully you can drop in there, as we say. But before you do, hit the subscribe button, cost you nothing. Help the channel out. Take care of yourself. And as always, Paddy, tell them.
Hail, hail, troops.
Hail, hail. See you later. Bye-bye.